Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I am your host, Rob Z. We have Coach Dale Young with us here today, and I like to dive into these episodes, Dale, with a question. You ask great questions. You find great breakthroughs in your life. So I want to launch this thing with a big question for you to set the stage. As you were going through your divorce, what was the one habit or one routine that made the biggest difference in you finding your breakthrough?
Oh, thank you, Rob. The place that I would start would be in 2014, 2015, sometime around that time frame. I was going through a divorce, and it was not pretty. It wasn't something I wanted or anything like that. But at that point, a friend said, "You can get better or you can get better. And the way to get better is to lean into the Lord." And that phrase, that comment has stuck with me all these years. It has also been something where I have just had to change my attitude and lean into the Lord all the time, from the morning routine to the daily routine to the whatever, keep up my Bible reading, keep up whatever it is. But that has kind of been the genesis, the starting point of all the other routines that I've done.
I love that. Getting bitter or getting better. You can't do both of those at the same time. That's beautiful, man. So I want to get deeper into that. But first, I've got to just welcome everybody to the platform. The Unstuck movement was created for you to break the chains that have been holding you back in your life. These are stories of transformation, stories of perseverance, of faith, of breakthrough. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. I want to shout out the sponsor who made this platform possible, the Connected Leaders Academy. Make sure you check out connectedleadersacademy.com. So Dale Young transitioned from a career in IT to inspiring entrepreneurs to embrace their divine design, eternal purpose, and calling, and craft their legacy as a best-selling author and coach. So Dale, you talk about either getting better or staying better. Easier said than done, right? On a daily basis, going through certain situations in your life. Walk us through that a little bit in a practical manner. How long did it take for you to, or have you truly embraced that on a daily basis? I still struggle with that, right? There's things that we hold on to in the past that can keep us bitter for a long time, and having to continually reframe that is difficult. It can be exhausting, and some days you feel like it's a losing battle. So that was the first routine habit that you built in. What came from that really instilled that in you to keep moving in that direction?
The big thing that it instilled in me was staying close to the community, staying close to the other people, staying close to my accountability partners, doing all of that sort of stuff. I was already doing some things to stay close to God anyway. I became a Christian in 1998, kind of late in life. I'd not grown up in a Christian household, but I'd really gone deep really fast. Gotten into a lot of stuff, done a lot of volunteer service and things like that. And really, I feel like it was the Lord that led me to coaching is really what happened. 2007, I learned about life coaching as a profession and looked into it real seriously, and I put it on the shelf. So from 1998 to 2007, I had made such a radical shift that I put the coaching on the shelf because I could not find any spiritual component at the time. Okay. And then in 2009, I'm walking through Half Price Books, and this book falls off the shelf and conks me on the head, figuratively anyway.
I was going to say that would be pretty amazing if that was literal.
No, it was figurative, but it was like I was walking down the aisle, and it was like this neon sign for this book, and it was Christian Coaching. That was the title of the book. And so that led me into all kinds of other things. That led me to, in 2011, starting to take some coaching courses, getting my first professional coaching client, those types of things. And I just really loved it. And I was asking my IT world if I could go to part-time and, spend more time on the coaching side of things. And I ended up doing that for about 5 years before they finally said yes. So that's a whole nother story. But 2012, kind of out of the blue, my wife just started talking about moving to Tennessee, and she did not want me there. She wanted me to buy her a house in Tennessee and just, let her set up residence there. And it was like, but you don't want me to come? What's going on here? And then she started talking about divorce and all these other things. And I'm going, where is all this coming from? And so I struggled with it. She had gone to Tennessee a few times and then came back and then gone again. And I was really at a down point, probably around 2013 or so. And one of the guys that I was meeting with, I had started meeting with him because I was helping hold him accountable. Well, it turned out he started helping hold me accountable to stay true and all this sort of stuff. And just was going through that divorce. And he said that phrase, you can get bitter, you can get better. And it was like, okay, well, I'm already reading the Bible. I'm already got a daily practice, a morning practice on stuff. How do I take that to the next level? And for me, taking it to the next level was meeting with guys regularly that I could be accountable to, building a community. I started actually a email prayer list for myself. Hey, I'm going through this problem. I reached out to like 50 of my friends or something like that. And I said, hey, would you pray for me? And, I gave them email updates, once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. And, I just random get an email from somebody on the list and saying, hey, I'm praying for you today. And that was encouragement enough to keep me going.
Talk about the morning routine. I think for a lot of people who are just getting into their faith, or they're trying to figure out how to strengthen that part of their life. What does that morning routine with God look like for you?
Well, it's evolved over time. And one of the things is I'm always growing and I'm always learning. So what it looks like today is before I get out of bed, I have an alarm on my phone. It goes off. I turn the alarm off and I put on the pause app. Now, the pause app came from John Eldredge. He talked about it in the book Get Your Life Back in 2020. A lot of people know John Eldredge from Wild at Heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book. But the pause app's out there. It's free. You can download it on any of your platforms or whatever. And you just do 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want to do, whatever's working for you. And you just pause and you do a little deep breathing and you listen to him recite some stuff. And it just gets me into a nice, calm space, right, to start with. And then I've got another thing that I listen to in the morning. It's actually from Dr. Ed Laymance. And that's the URL is dredlaymance.org, I believe it is. And he's got a lot of things on I am a child of the King. And the whole idea of being able to say, I am, because of what Jesus Christ has done for me, I am a child of the King. I have been saved. I've been redeemed. I've been, I'm going to have a home in heaven. All these things that are just general statements of any Christian believer. That, once you start embracing those and listening to that thing, I've got a recording that was done by Steve Ryder from John Ramsted's podcast, Eternal Leadership Podcast. And it's like a 3-minute thing. And I can give you the link that you can put in the show notes or whatever, if you'd like, that, you can just listen to that. And it's just a really great way to just get your mind focused on, this is who God says that I am. Am I going to believe it today or not?
I love that. Those are some really good practical tips. Thank you. Some real tangible stuff that we can take away. I made a note here. I'm going to download that pause app for myself and check that out. I love John Eldredge. I went through actually a whole camp workshop for Wild at Heart that was just amazing. I absolutely loved it. He's an incredible guy. So when you talk about, helping people find their calling and embracing this divine design in our life, what does that mean for you? How did that lead you out of that place that you were at working in IT? Obviously, you were going through that divorce, and that put you in a very difficult, stuck place in your life. But you found God's divine design for you. How is that revealed to you? And talk more about just divine design and what that means to you.
Yeah, it's really an interesting thing because the way I look at it is every Christian has a general identity, like I was just talking about. We all have these general things. We all have general calling then, okay? And the general callings is number one, the Great Commandment, love God and love others as yourself. And then the Great Commission, go and make disciples and teach them to obey and, all that sort of stuff. So those are general identity and general calling for all Christians. But then I was reading about all the gifting, okay, and all the fact that we all each have unique spiritual gifts, and God has assigned these gifts to each one of us as He directed, all that sort of stuff. And so that means that we have not only a general identity, but we have a specific identity as well. Okay, and our specific identity is all of the stuff that we've gone through. I think you've probably heard the acronym SHAPE before. Spiritual gifts, personality, no, SH. Spiritual gifts, heart, abilities, personality, experience. So we all have unique.
Heard that.
Okay, so spiritual gifts, that comes straight out of the Bible. The heart is, we all have a heart for serving different people, different people groups, different types of things. We all have unique abilities. I've done a lot of Clifton Strengths work in my life, and I am certified in a couple of Clifton Strengths areas, including Gallup. And so the strengths and talents that we're given, I believe some of those are hardwired by the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Personalities, are you a lion, a beaver, whatever type of thing on those cute little tests? Are you a disc? Which type of disc are you? Those types of things, personalities, and then experiences. We all have different experiences. I went through 4 decades of serving in IT and helping in IT. That's an experience, and I'm using that now as a general way to help people. So because we have specific identities that are different from the general identities of all Christians, I believe we also have a specific calling.
Yeah.
Just like we don't, we have the general calling, but we also have a specific calling. How are we going to implement that general calling of love God and love others as ourselves? So that's where I was thinking about all that. And that just kept coming back to me. And then going through a lot of the Clifton Strengths work that I did, we talked about identity all the time. We talked about identity. And it was like, okay, there's got to be another step to it. And so about that time, I was reading through Simon Sinek's Start With Why, right? And Start With Why, it's like, start with why. You gotta get down to the core. Why are you doing these things? And so I kind of equate the general and specific identities to the who. Who are we, right? The callings then are the why. So you take the why. Why are you doing these things? And you take your specific who of who are you, and your specific calling of why are you here on this planet at this specific time in history with all this stuff and chaos going on around us. What's our role in that? How do we do that? And in 2022, I was working through some process and actually was writing a chapter for that first book that turned into a #1 bestseller. And I was writing it and I said, I feel like my calling is to inspire calling in others. And it just really did come down to that. So it was really about a 30-year journey, because I think this journey started in 1992 when I said, this is just a job, not a career. And I knew I wanted something bigger. And over the 30 years, that bigger just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So, yeah. So it was really 2022 that I was like, okay, calling is what I've been looking for this whole time.
Yeah. And helping people find their calling is so important. Oftentimes in life, we don't even spend the time to investigate what the heck is it that we're supposed to be doing. Something I always love to go back to is I always go back to the question of, like, what did you want to be when you were 10 years old? And there's something in the essence of that lends to what you're supposed to be doing in life. It might not be the exact thing that you wanted to do when you were 10 years old, but the essence of that is a very, very formed foundation of like a sounding board of like, okay, if you head in this one specific direction, you're going to find the right thing. And unfortunately, we have people in our life when we're growing up that might not push us in that direction, that might not even ask us that question. I was fortunate to have a mom when I was 15 who asked me what I wanted to do with my life. And I said I wanted to be a radio DJ. And so that turned into years of being a radio DJ, but led me to where I am now, where just knowing that my calling was to communicate and connect with people and to broadcast that out. And like you're kind of saying, helping people figure out that path. Like, man, it's a shame that we don't have that. Some people, I talked to a woman a few weeks ago. She knew from the age of 5 or 6 exactly what she was supposed to do. And she was supposed to be a writer, and she did it, and she never wavered from it. But oftentimes we get pushed and pulled by life in so many different directions, right? And that leaves us confused. How do you take IT, combine it with the calling that is on your life right now? How do you picture that and bridge that gap together in your own mind, right? Because God has a design for all these things. What was that design for you? How did IT tie in to where you're at now?
I think IT was a mechanism for getting me out of myself. Okay. I finally had to, in IT, for me to advance in IT, I had to become a manager, and I had to start leading teams. And once I started leading teams, I realized the importance of actually being people aware, being emotionally intelligent, being able to read other people and determine what was going on with them, being able to look at somebody and say, oh, they're hurting. What can I do to help them out today? And that got me into a mode, because I was a very selfish person growing up. I was the last of 3. I was the late life miracle by 12 years, those types of things. And so I was doted on, and, I just, everything was kind of handed to me. I was able to succeed in school with no problem and all that sort of stuff. So, so I worked through the stuff. And when I look back, I know it was God leading me through those steps, even though I didn't acknowledge it at the time. But he led me into computers, and I just enjoyed it, loved it, was really good at it. But that then led me to being a people person, more of a people person anyway. And that then led me to, okay, how do I take this? How do I really start helping people? Because I did an exercise, it was probably mid-90s or something like that. What was really enticing? What was I really proud of my IT career up to that point? Mm-hmm. And when I look back, it was like, it wasn't the big systems that I created or the technical stuff that I'd done, but it was the fact that I helped create a little sequence of things. It was a hodgepodge of several things cobbled together, but allowed the HR people to actually look at the vacations and things like that and get it all scheduled. So it was one of those little pieces of things that it didn't really take a lot of time, but over time I kept supporting it, kept adding features and whatever. And it was just, I got so many compliments and praises about, hey, Dale, this saved us so much time. Hey, Dale, this messed up. Can you fix it real quick, type of thing. And it was like, oh, I felt like I was making an impact in people's lives. And that's really where I think a lot of it started, was how am I making a difference in people as opposed to just making money?
Yeah. And, I can totally relate to that on the end of the selfishness. I also grew up very selfish. On the opposite end of you, I was the youngest of my parents had me, got divorced, and they both got remarried to other people and had 2 kids on each side. So I was kind of on an island a little bit, but not really. But maybe I kind of looked at it that way, but I was very self-centered and selfish in what I did. So I can totally relate to that part of your story. And it's really interesting that you said that IT helped you to be a better team leader and know how to work with teams and know how to work with personalities and people, because that's a great revelation that most people would never have, that because you had to elevate yourself in the world of IT, that led you to managing, to being a manager, to managing people. And it's such a powerful thing for us to understand how to do, is to manage people properly and to know what that looks like and how to do it in a servant leadership kind of way, and how to do it and not how to do it in a very boss kind of way. Usually when we think of leadership, we think of it in the sense of like somebody telling everybody else what to do instead of the exact opposite. So we're going to jump into a spot right now for the Connected Leaders Academy. 60 seconds. We'll be back. And I want to talk a little bit more about this team concept with you and how that practically changed over time. How did you go from the team leader at the beginning until who you were at the team leader at the end, and how God brought that servant leadership out of you? We'll talk about that in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So, Dale, when you first started leading people, who were you and who did you become as God came into that equation and showed you how to be a great servant leader?
Who was I? I was, let's see, I was a propeller head when I very first started doing management. The company I was working for, it was a defense contractor at the time, put me through some management training. And it was kind of like, okay, this is interesting. And they basically were encouraging the people that were super technical like myself to grow in the emotional side of things and grow in the team leadership side of things. And that was a way to get promoted. And that's kind of what I was looking for. And at my point in my career where I thought, okay, I've got to get promoted. I got to keep going. I got to keep growing. And so I was just really just doing it because the company was pushing me that way. And I had been doing databases and operating systems and things like that. They actually put me in charge after taking that course. They put me in charge of a quality assurance team. And it's like, I don't know anything about quality assurance. And I had to, I had some of the basics, of course, but it was like, I never really knew what QA did for that time. And so it was like, I had to lean on my team. I could not go do the job. I had to lean on the team. I had to learn from the team. What is it we're doing? How do I support you? How do I do all this other stuff? So it was kind of a crucible at that point, and I could either make it or not type of thing. And so I chose to make it because I'm going to succeed at anything I try. I was proud and stupid at that time. So, and so I did that. And then it was like, okay, this is working, but now I'd like to manage some people where I know a little bit more about what I'm doing. And so they gave me a small team of about 3 people that, was doing it. And I just kept growing in that area. So that was the first start of it. Now, who I became, I'll give you this example. In 2006, I was part of a small team. We actually sold a contract to a client in Houston. I was in the Dallas area at the time. Sold a contract in Houston. I had to be on the plane down there 4 days a week for quite a while. But we delivered a nice little gig to them. And they basically said, would you like to just take over the managed services of this contract? And of course we said yes. And so that was something we'd been trying to build towards. But this was pretty huge. We actually ended up adding 8 team members and a team lead that all reported to me. And so setting that up and getting that going correctly started in 2006. It went annual in 2007. When I finally left the IT company in 2021, we still had a managed services contract with that client. And so it was one of those things. I feel like the Lord just had given me the right things to do at that time. And I'd started leading the team well. And with his help, we got the team set up pretty well. Went for several years. I had not managed it. I had not been around it since 2014. So I did about 7-8 years, and then it was still going when I left. So, we got it set up well, I think, is how it worked out. So, yeah.
And you talk about when I do the prep for these episodes, I love to find out about quotes and sayings that people live by, things that have impacted them greatly. And one of the things you had said to me was that God cares more about your calling than your comfort. What does that mean to you in your life? Where were you sitting at a comfortable place? Was it in the IT world and he felt calling you out of that? And what was that process? Because that process can be incredibly difficult, and it's nice to be comfortable. We know there's always the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Comfort obviously lands you most times in that place of the pain of regret, but the pain of discipline is so great in our lives. What was he calling you to be disciplined about that led you out of that comfort zone?
Yeah, there was at least 5 or maybe 8 different periods of time that I can look back on and say, okay, God was pulling me out of my comfort zone. I'd gotten too comfortable. First was in 1992. And like I said, out loud, I said, well, this is just a job, not a career. And I knew he was calling me to something bigger. And that was even before I actually became a Christian. So looking back, I can see it very plainly now. And then in 1998 is when I actually got baptized. That was getting me out of my comfort zone because I was just focused on making money before that. And then in 2006 and 7, when I was setting up that contract for that client in Houston, that was taking me out of my comfort zone. 2009, when that book hit me on the head, that was taking me from IT over to coaching. That was taking me out of my comfort zone. And then the divorce from 2013 to 2016 was when it was finally. And it was like, that was definitely a get me out of my comfort zone type of thing. So there's been several places, and it's, I don't really believe in a comfort zone. I actually think it's a dead zone that you're used to.
That's very true. Yeah, it's a dead zone that you're used to. Wow. And you can find so many different quote unquote comfortable things inside of that zone to keep you preoccupied. But if you're not preoccupied in that place, then you're not going to be happy. That dissatisfaction, that discontent is going to set in, which is why we keep ourselves so busy so often. So going through that whole 4-year divorce part of your life, that wilderness can be incredibly difficult, incredibly challenging. When you said in that point in time, also you chose to get closer to the Lord, and that brought you to a much better place now in your life. Looking back, what advice do you have to people going through periods like that in their life, just to be able to, on a daily basis, hang on and keep hope and move forward? Because it can be really hard to move forward in those times. How do you keep moving forward inch by inch when something's dragging on for years?
It is a tough thing, and I've been there, and I totally understand it. For me, a large part was leaning into who God said I was. Okay, using some of the tools. I mean, I was using that same tool about I am a child of the King that I mentioned already. I was using that back in that time frame, and so that was one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle for me was the community. Okay, I think of identity and community as mutual support systems. The community, when you get really close and you're vulnerable with people and they know who you are at a deep core level, they can speak words into you that you have forgot. Okay. Hey, Dale, you are a child of the King. Hey, Dale, you are a good coach. Hey, Dale, you are. Matter of fact, I was just on a call earlier today, and a person spoke some of those into me. And it just, even though I'm not in a bad place right now, it's always uplifting when that happens. Yeah. And so build your community in whatever way, form, or fashion that you can do it. Build it before you get into a crisis, if you can.
Yeah.
Get into some accountability groups. Get into a church. Lean into the people around you, and just let them support you when you can't carry yourself. Sometimes, I was just seeing some stuff about an army. An army has to have a general, right, to lead the battle. But there has to be other people in there. You can't go and fight a whole army by yourself. You've got to have other people on your side. So link up arms with people to your right and your left. Let them support you.
It's incredible when you isolate yourself, how terrible you can feel. And when you put yourself in situations with people, even if you don't feel like it, you always walk out of those situations feeling so much better, so much more uplifted. It's got to be around the right people, but it really changes your whole perspective and can really shake you out of a mood that you were trapped in, that you were stuck in, that sometimes it doesn't seem like on a isolated level you can bring yourself out of that place. You need that. Iron sharpens iron is really true. Getting around good men, good women in your life who can create that change for you. And I challenge anybody watching or listening, if you feel like kind of a lone wolf, or if you feel like that lone wolf mentality is like meant for you and that's who you're supposed to be, because I hear that often, like that's not who you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be that lone wolf. You need community. You need people in your life. And you might ask yourself, well, I don't have anybody good in my life who can do that. You're going to have to get outside of your comfort zone. Going back to the quote that you live by, God cares more about your calling than your comfort. Until you step outside of that comfort zone, then he'll meet you where you're at and he'll help you with what you can't help yourself with. But he wants you to help yourself get to that place. And there are lots of really good people out there who really do care, who really want to help. And I couldn't agree with you more on that, Dale. That is so true. I'm curious, for yourself and what you do, tell me about a client that you work with, somebody that's gone through a huge transformation in their life, and you've seen this transformation happen for them. Tell me about that and what that has done for you as a person.
Yeah, this client, her name's Sam, and she had self-published 16 books when I met her. She was owner publisher of a little local neighborhood magazine, but she was feeling drained and burnt out. She really knew that God was calling her to something different. She didn't really have a clue what or anything. So it was like she was kind of a blank slate at this point. She knew she wanted to get out of this magazine publishing, but she didn't know what to get into. And so I took her through a Clifton Strengths process, which is part of the identity process that I talk about, the who are you, and helped her understand exactly who she was. And what she realized was, matter of fact, one of the funny things that happened was when we first got into it, before we ever actually started the coaching, she had taken the assessment and she calls me up and she says, "Hey, Dale, your test is broken." And I'm going, "What?" Tell me what's going on. She said, "Well, this is communications number 14. Here I am, a self-published 16 books, and I've owner publisher of a magazine. How can communication be down that low?" And I said, "Well, trust the process. Let's go through it. Let's see where it lands when you get through the process." And when we got to communication at 14, it was like, oh, I see why it's down that low. Communication in the Gallup Strength Finder is all about the words and the love of the words and the creating of the proper phrase and the crafting of the story and all that sort of stuff. Well, 14 of her 16 books were actually journals. So she wasn't actually writing a lot. She was actually creating space for other people to do the writing. And then the magazine was, she was having to get stories from everybody else, but she was having to sell advertisement and all that sort of stuff. And that wasn't naturally her either. So anyway, she actually ended up shutting that down, starting a VA business, a virtual administration business. And she started it April 1st, 2019. And it has gone now 5 years. She's got 20 people working for her, got 40 clients nationwide, and she's just killing it and loving it. And she's now working on how do I get out of the day-to-day work myself and get to the point where the business is basically running itself so that I can go off and do some of the other stuff that's on my heart to do. So
incredible.
Yeah.
What has that done for you as a person? Seeing somebody's journey like that, seeing somebody grow like that, what has that done for you?
It keeps me motivated. It keeps me saying, okay, God, you do have me on the right track here. It's so encouraging to see growth like that. And while that is probably the best and biggest person that I've coached so far, I've seen incredible growth in all my clients, maybe except for maybe 3 or 4. But there's always going to be some people that just don't embrace the process, right? So yeah, it
really is powerful, and you get so much upliftment within yourself from helping other people. And I've heard this a million times. You've heard this a million times. It's true across the board, but we need to hear it again. And anybody, I'll say again, who's watching or listening, who's stuck in this place of maybe lone wolf syndrome, or you feel like you can't get yourself out of this hole, get out and help somebody. How can you serve somebody? How can you help somebody out? Getting yourself out of your own way and just thinking about others, benefiting others, is going to pull you out of that place, and it's going to uplift you on such a level you can't even imagine until you go and do it. So go and do it. And anytime I'm feeling down, anytime I'm feeling like the weight of the world on me, or like I'm just making everything about me, when I turn that over to like, how can I serve somebody else? It really does change that whole perspective on your life and gives you meaning. And also the cool thing about helping other people is then you get to see in yourself, wow, it's incredible what I'm able to do when I'm not just trying to fix me, or I'm not just concerned about me. It's amazing what comes out of me, the things I say, the things I do, the way I act, that I probably wouldn't act otherwise unless somebody else, I felt I was accountable for them. I was accountable for helping them and assisting them and getting to where they want to go. So would you agree with all that?
Oh, absolutely. I've been learning a lot about brain science lately. And one model says that when you're in the bad zone, you're basically in a fear mode.
Yeah.
Okay. Your brain's in a fear mode. It's flight, fight, react, whatever. Okay. To get over to the joy mode, which is the great mode that you need to be in most of the time, where your prefrontal cortex is all active and everything's working, you're your best human at that point. To get there, the quickest way to get from fear to joy is to go through gratitude. Mm-hmm. And every time that you go serve somebody, you are saying that I am grateful to be in a place where I can help somebody else. And so serving people increases that gratitude tremendously. And that gets you back to the joy mode. That gets you back to where you're more human.
Absolutely, Dale. It's been really wonderful talking to you. I enjoyed this conversation so much. If they want to find you, they can check out CoachDale.com. Also on LinkedIn and Facebook, Coach Dale on LinkedIn, Coach Dale Young on Facebook. Those are the best ways to get a hold of you?
Those are the best ways.
Cool. This has been a wonderful conversation. Anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
One of my favorite quotes is this. What's the difference between an inheritance and a legacy? And I like to say it this way. There's a lot of right answers, but I like to say it this way. The difference is one word of two characters. An inheritance is what you leave to someone. A legacy is what you leave in someone. Go out and create your legacy.
Absolutely. I love that. Your testimony's been amazing. I love the breakthrough you've gone through. Thank you, Dale, for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
You bet.